This week on Oklahoma Horizon. Well, here's something to think about. Do you know whether income tax, sales tax, or property tax costs you more? Or consider this, which is fairest? Is it better to tax us on what we own or what we buy? And do we all even pay our fair share? Those are just some of the questions we try to answer today when we delve into what Benjamin Franklin called one of only two things certain in life, death and taxes. Stay with us for Oklahoma Horizon.
Oklahoma Horizon is made possible by the Oklahoma Department of Career and Technology Education.
Oklahoma's investment in careertech provides more than nationally recognized technology education and training. It produces solid financial returns for the state's economic future. Oklahoma CareerTech, elevating our economy.
And the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping good people grow good things. And now, from the CareerTech Studios in Stillwater, here's your host, Rob McClendon.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us. Well, people have been squabbling about how much tax to pay, well, since the time of the pharaohs. So today's fights over federal tax fairness are nothing new. But Uncle Sam's income tax may be the least of it. Consider all the other kinds of taxes we pay. Sales tax, property tax, gas tax, even a tax on our groceries. And when you add them all up, it's not pocket change. We get off light, though, compared to some other countries, but we still demand plenty from our government that has to be paid for somehow. We begin today by facing the facts on taxes. Here's Frank Sesno.
So here's a stupid question. How much tax do we really want to pay? As little as possible, right? But we live with such a blizzard of deductions, exemptions, surcharges, penalties, fees. How do we even know what our tax bill really is?
Tax time, bad time. For many, a complicated all-nighter, a flurry of forms. For others, well, not so much. About 47% of American households pay no federal income tax at all. But everybody pays some combination of taxes. Income tax, Social Security and Medicare tax, state income tax, sales tax, property tax, vehicle taxes, tolls, license fees, and more. Some taxes vary depending on where you live or how much you earn. New Hampshire has neither an income tax nor a sales tax. Some target only some people, like alcohol users or smokers. We love to complain about our taxes, but they're a lot higher in some other countries, like the 25% consumption tax in Denmark, or Ireland's top income tax rate of 55%. What's fair? Is simpler better? Thousands of small changes to the federal tax code have slipped in over the years. Do tax breaks work? For home ownership, education, charitable giving, hybrid cars, you name it. Would we rather pay tax on what we earn or what we buy and consume? Here's a fact. The United States is the only major economy without some kind of national consumption tax, though there are plenty of state and local sales taxes.
How can the tax code raise enough to fund what the government really needs to do without taking so much that it kills off savings and investment, or just gets wasted? Big questions to ask in hard times as we face hard facts.
And here is something that just may surprise you. Federal tax revenue as a percentage of our gross domestic product is at its lowest level since 1950, more than 60 years ago. Let's take a look at some numbers. In 2010, federal tax revenue came to 15.1% of GDP. In 1950, it was 14.4%, rose to 19% in the 70s, and hit 20% at the start of the new century, and has been gradually falling to last year's low of 15.4%. And while a little tax relief is always welcome, here's the problem. In 2011, the feds collected roughly $2.3 trillion in tax, but we spent $3.6 trillion, which leaves a $1.3 trillion deficit that just adds to the current national debt of $16 trillion. And no matter how you do the math, that is a lot of zeros. Now, the easiest way out of such a big hole is just to stop digging. But there is a problem. More than half of all federal spending occurs automatically without any congressional debate or congressional vote. Now, Just over 55% of the federal budget, about $2 trillion, is so-called mandatory spending. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and federal and military retirements. And what all these programs have in common is that the actual spending levels are determined not by Congress, but by the number of people who qualify for the benefits, which now leaves just 45% of the budget for discretionary spending, which, despite the name, are pretty important. Now, these are programs that can range from transportation to education, even defense. But because they're discretionary dollars, this is where the budget hawks zero in, because their funding is determined by congressional vote. Now, if you'd like to see more facts just like this, just head to our website at okhorizon.com, where we have daily updates from Face the Facts USA. Now, when we return, disagreement over some state questions.
You're watching Oklahoma Horizon, featuring some of the good things that are happening in the great state of Oklahoma.
Well, land values in Oklahoma are on the rise. Certainly good news if you're in the market to sell. But if your intentions are to hold on to the land, odds are your ad valorem taxes are headed upwards. But just how quickly may be determined this November. With more, here's our Andy Barth.
Rob, the ad valorem tax issue is creating drama and division among lawmakers and school and agricultural officials. This November, voters will decide whether they want the ad valorem tax annual increase capped at 3% versus the current 5%. But you may ask, what is ad valorem? So here's an example. Imagine this is your house, and its valuation has risen from $100,000 to $150,000 on the tax rolls. And it's that $50,000 difference that State Question 758 addresses. Under current law, the taxable amount for ad valorem can only rise by 5% each year. So it will take roughly 9 years of the 5% incremental increases for you to be taxed on the full $150,000. But if 758 is approved, it would cap the rise in ad valorem taxes to 3% each year, which means it will take about 16 years for your taxes to rise to their fair market value. Certainly good news for taxpayers, but not such good news for schools that depend on ad valorem taxes to fund education.
The farmer and the cowman should be friends. One man likes to push a plow, the other likes to chase a cow, but that's no reason why they can't.
History shows the farmer and the cattleman often don't see eye to eye. But this year, it's the farmer and the educator who may be at odds. State Question 758 would cap ad valorem tax to 3% annually, something educators worry would hurt our schools.
We move this one over here.
It's a form and a way to fund government based on your local ability to do so.
Greg Winters is the superintendent at Canadian Valley Technology Center and says ad valorem tax is an important component for school revenue.
In comprehensive schools, K-12 schools, based on the equalization portion of their formula, the more money they raise locally, the less money they get state.
So, prosperous districts with higher ad valorem values leaves more state dollars to go to rural schools. And Winters says if the ad valorem cap is reduced, rural areas will come up short.
Half of the properties, maybe more than that, transactions are taking place in Edmond. So they have a tremendous turnover of property every month, every week in Edmond. And so what happens is if they're at the 5% cap and we move it back to the 3% cap, then that means the Edmond Public Schools net value is not going to grow as much now with 3% as it was with the 5%. Rural's going to lose because the urban areas are not going to grow as fast. Therefore, they're going to attract more state dollars. There's less state dollars for everybody, so the rural areas are really going to suffer. So it's really a rural-urban issue.
And a common question about this tax is, who should be paying for education?
If you've got kids in school, if you've got grandkids in school, and you go to ball games, you go to the different activities at school and whatnot, I think it's real easy for you to bridge the gap of why you're paying property taxes to support your schools, and here's what the product is. If you've already raised your family and you're senior citizens and your kids all moved out of state and your grandkids are going to school in West Virginia or someplace, you're probably wondering why do I have to pay taxes to support schools and I don't have any kids in school? And The rest of that story is probably back in the 60s and 70s when those folks' kids were in school. They had the generation ahead of them that was actually paying tax to support those.
Are you changing fonts?
And while education officials are opposed to the reduction, Oklahoma Farm Bureau President Mike Spradling says agriculturalists are in favor of the state question.
Most agriculture is certainly asset rich and cash poor. And so there's, the concept, and everybody thinks because they have the big tractors, the big barns, a lot of property, that they have a lot of money, and it doesn't really affect them that much, to be taxed. But it does, and especially in today's environment. Let's look at what happened the last 2 years. A record-setting drought. There's been a lot of things occurred. There's been a lot of people had to dispose of their herds. There's been a lot of crops be burned up in the fields because they've already had a lot of tragedy in their lives. Then to come back and then have, at the end of the year, beginning of the year, you start your tax year again with a tax liability is it's a terrible thing.
Now, having to pay taxes on all this land around me can get expensive. Plus, add into the fact that we've seen a significant rise in land values, and farmers have seen their tax bill tick up 5% each year, which, when you own this much land, gets really expensive.
75% of all farm income now comes from off-farm sources. So in order to keep in agriculture, a lot of our people, we know it, and we see it every day. A lot of wives are teaching, a lot of husbands working in factories and things just to keep their farming operations going.
It goes by 2.
But Spradling says he's not lost on the importance and value of education in rural areas.
Well, I think we certainly need to look at what we can do to help education. Back several years ago when we had 744, we had the issue between the landowners and education as well. But that wasn't an issue that we were negative against education. It was just some poor legislation. And we vowed back then that we'd do what we could. And I think all of us as Oklahomans need to look at what we can do to help education. But you can't always continually just keep putting things on the back of one particular industry, such as Valorem with agriculture. One thing we could certainly do as a state is be certain it's earmarked to go directly to education.
2 individual advocates for the future of rural Oklahoma, just differing on the way we get there. Now, State Question 758 is on the ballot this November, and both Dr. Winters and Mike Spradling say it is vital to be educated and informed on this issue and all issues before heading to the polls.
Now, a recent poll was taken to see how concerned Oklahomans are about cuts to local schools. Now, 64% say they were very concerned, 24% say they were somewhat concerned, and 11% say they're not concerned at all. Well, this is not the only tax question being considered on the November ballot. There is also State Question 766, which exempts all intangible personal property from ad valorem taxes. While seemingly a simple question, State Question 766 has widespread implications that could drain tens of millions of dollars from schools, fire, and police protection, and other vital state services, while potentially boosting homeowners' property taxes that State Question 758 proponents hope to cap. Now, earlier, I visited with an Oklahoman with an interesting perspective on how we fund things here in Oklahoma. Mike Dix is a farmer, rancher, but also a school board member and an economist. Mike, when it comes to the tax debate that's going on in our state, how do we balance the wants on one side to have lower taxes and then the wants on the other side of continuing state services?
Well, it's an economist's dream to have these thoughts about that, because in a sense you're saying, okay, let's lay out what we need. And what I find interesting is no matter whether they're talking about the governor or the state legislators, it's at every meeting, it's, we know our roads are bad, we know we need money for DHS, our teachers are underpaid, the state workers haven't gotten a raise in I don't know how many years, et cetera. They have all these lists of problems. And then right around they'll turn around, but we're going to have a tax cut this year because we want to give you your money back. And the problem with that is it makes it sound like every dollar we give to the government is a waste of our money. It's not a purchase of services, it's a waste of money. And that's the wrong approach. You have to list and say, what are the things we really need to have? If we need to have our roads fixed, how much money will it take to do that, and how do we get the money? And we don't seem to have that argument anymore. It's all about, look, we have this much money coming from taxes, and that's too much. We have too high of taxes. Well, you say you have too high taxes, but when then you turn around and you look at the services that we're not getting, obviously we're not paying enough. So I think we need to step back and have a look at it and say, what is it that we want to accomplish? What is it that we want government to do? And how can they do it more efficiently on some of these things than, say, you and I can do it by fixing our road, by hiring someone to fix it. See what I mean? So you say the government's there because the transaction costs are cheaper if the government does it than if we all try to collectively do it individually. See what I'm saying? So you say that debate needs to go on. We don't seem to have that debate. We have two separate debates. We have a debate about needs and how to allocate what we've decided to draw from the people. And then we have this, how much should we draw from the people? But they're not connected. And they have to be connected, just like your budget at home is connected and the budget at any business is connected. So I think that's a major problem in this state, in the federal government, and in a lot of governments.
And nearly all governments. And I believe it was Abraham Lincoln that said, and this isn't a direct quote, that government's role is to do what we can't do individually as well.
Right, right.
Do we risk if we see taxes maybe lower on the state level, that those then just get transferred down to the local level, city level, the school board, school level? Is that a problem?
Well, I mean, that's exactly what's been happening. It's been happening for a long time. You know, a lot of people talked about the federal government, this enormous bureaucracy and its expansion and expenditures. But if you go and look, you'll see that in real terms, the federal government's budget's been pretty flat. And unfortunately, that means that the states had to pick up the slack for all those services, and if they didn't do it, they'd toss it down to the municipalities and the counties. And that's what's happening. You know, I'm on the local school board, and I find that amazing that I've been on 10 years now, and during that time, the number of regulations and new things that the schools are supposed to do has increased dramatically. But the amount of funding that's gone for the schools, right, has been dropping. And now they're talking about we won't get back to 2008 levels maybe for 3 or 4 more years. So how is it that you want to have all these services provided to the students, but you don't want to give us the fund to do it? It's just going to get tossed back. And I can talk about most of the school boards in Oklahoma have taken the same tact we have, is we have gone out and we've had a very supportive public here, and we've done it through bond issues. So now not only do we build buildings with bonds, but we buy school buses with bonds, we buy computer and technology equipment, we buy textbooks. We do a lot of things with bonds that we never did before. And the reason we do that is because we're not getting the money from the state.
I've heard a lot of people say, well, if that one area wants to have better schools, they can do just as you're saying. But do we risk as an entire state and even as an entire country not being competitive in the future by not investing in the present day?
Yeah, I think that's the problem you risk is, sure, you know, Stillwater is an education community, so it's not a real struggle to get that funding from the Stillwater community. But there's a lot of communities that don't have that background. And so are you going to throw them out to the wolves and say, you know, deal with it any way you can, but we want you to have these test scores, otherwise we're going to call your schools failing schools. I think that's just a little bit difficult on those, and it's no different between the schools and the police departments and the fire departments and all the public entities that are out there. It's just going to be very difficult for them to support themselves off of totally local funds.
I had a parent one time that would always tell me that I had champagne taste on a beer budget. Is that what our country has these days?
Well, that's a good question. I think we need to do both of those. I think our wants exceed our needs, and I think we're unwilling to pay for what our needs are.
Now, Mike, there is a state question that's going to be voted on in this coming November that will lower the rise of ad valorem taxes. From your perspective as an economist and as a school board member and let's say as a landowner too, tell us what you think, what we need to be thinking about.
The question we're going to be voting on is whether we want to cap the growth in ad valorem, which is currently capped at 5%, and lower that cap on growth to 3%. As I said earlier, the amount of bonds that a school can raise now is much more important than it was in the past, because much more of the operating expenses of the school is being paid for out of those bond funds. So we're much more dependent on our local community for overall support than we were previously. And I find that interesting is that the state government doesn't want to fund us to do those, and they want to put it to local, but now they want to provide an avenue for local people to say, we don't want to do that. We want to put a cap on that growth. And if they cap that growth, it's going to have an immense impact on the public schools. Right now, you're not going to see the growth in real estate values that we've been seeing in the last decade. And so the 3% cap probably won't be taking a big shot on us yet. But when things do pick up again and that cap of 3% is on there, keep in mind that when property values go up by 5 or 10%, you're talking about a lot of things going up and not just those property values. And if you're not able to increase your levy and your ability to capture that money at the same rate, you're going to fall behind. You're not going to be able to afford the things that you're now having. We don't have to give everybody a textbook. We can ask every parent to buy that textbook. But that's not a very good goal because we have a lot of kids in this community that are from families that are impoverished. And that's a tough item. One of the problems we have in the public school systems is working through with those kids. Those kids do not have the same benefits as some of the more wealthier middle-class people do. They don't get to go to camps during the summer. They're not around the kind of learning environments with computers and whatnot that the richer kids have. So there's a lot of things. Some of them don't participate in the extracurricular after schools because there's charges on some of those things. And so those kids come in, they're a little bit behind at the beginning. And if they don't get to participate in those events that the other kids are participating, not only during school but outside of school, they're going to get further behind. And as funding gets cracked down, those kids are going to get further and further moved apart. And while that's a problem in Oklahoma, in Stillwater, it's a bigger problem in the urban areas. So and as you said, for the entire United States, this is an enormous problem that we need to educate those kids. We need to bring them all up to a specific level. What we really need to do is make sure that we reach their potential. Right? Not every kid is going to be college bound, and not every kid's going to get a PhD. But every kid has a potential, and we need to make sure that each kid reaches that potential.
Is investing in education investing in economic development?
Absolutely. Probably the best thing that the state did, best economic tool that the state ever did was doing the pre-K program. Starting to pay to have kids be in full-time pre-K. Again, those kids that were economically disadvantaged, the quicker you can get them into school and get them the same things that all the other kids have, the better off they're going to be. And so that was an enormous investment. I mean, when you think about, even in our district, I think we're talking about probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 or 400 kids extra that got brought into the school. So, and that's $3,600 a kid, and you think about that across the state, that's an enormous investment. That was probably one of the best economic development things that the state's ever done for itself. And those kids now will be better off because they got an earlier start in education.
Now you can see much more on the future of taxes in Oklahoma. Just head to the value-added section on our website at okhorizon.com. There you can hear what others have to say and also join in on our ongoing conversation on Twitter. Just use the @OKHorizonTV sign and join our conversation and let us know what you think. Next time on Oklahoma Horizon, we look at the future of education and how we pay for it.
You're creating something from nothing.
I feel like it's teaching me without making it boring.
Project Lead the Way is our magic bullet.
Teaching for the 21st century on Oklahoma Show for the Heartland, Oklahoma Horizon. Well, during the 20th century, there was a quiet revolution down on the farm that I think we could learn something from today. Like many of us, my parents grew up on the farm, but left for greener pastures. Just like farm kids across America, they could see that mechanization meant fewer hands were needed to farm the land, so they headed to the cities for better jobs. And according to noted Harvard labor economist Lawrence Katz, that successful transition is one of the great success stories of American business. According to a study Katz co-authored, across the Farm Belt, rural America invested in education, knowing that farming no longer required the labor it once did. So they created top-notch schools that produce not just better farmers, but the tools for their children to leave if they wanted to or needed to. And according to CATS, many of those better educated rural students that moved to the cities soon became the bosses of their native-born urbanites. Today, we face similar challenges all across the country. Technology is fueling a transformation in our workplaces. Many of the jobs we do today will simply not be there tomorrow. So it's with education that we prepare our own children for an economy that focuses on skills just like our agrarian forefathers did for us. I'm a beneficiary of that long ago commitment to invest in education. The question is, will we do the same thing for our children? I'm Rob McClendon. Thanks for watching. See you back here next week.
Thank you for watching Oklahoma Horizon.